Hey, good Wednesday morning. Michael Clark with BAM Weather, your latest long-range outlook here, weather yield episode. We're going to talk about what September's looking like, harvest, and yes, even winter. Possibly maybe a colder start to winter, statistically favoring a cold December. We're going to get into some outlook details today and some fun research as well. First and foremost, let's talk about where we've been and where we're going. We'll shrink my face here. For those of you that don't know who I am, Michael Clark, co-founder, CEO here of BAM Weather. This is my family over here. As always, hey, if you like these videos, you get any value out of them, they teach you something, they inform you, enlighten you, share it with a friend, send it to a friend. Always love looking to grow the following and the folks paying attention to our outlooks. August, it's been cool and dry. A wet period is coming, though, for a few days. We're going to look at the summer pattern to date, the September pattern, and what cool Enso neutral winters look like, which seems to be where we're going. Maybe a weak La Nina, and the latest yield outlooks as well. August to date, boy, it's been dry. I mean, you could just look here at some of the folks that really haven't seen much in the way of any precipitation for the month of August here in terms of just, widespread, especially here across a big chunk of the grain belt. And then it's just been incredibly dry across Texas and the deep south. Very, very wet here. This stole the show. This was Debbie. This stole the show as it took a bunch of the energy and a big trough went out east and took the moisture with it. And that's where the moisture to date, the first 2 weeks of August, has gone. Historically, to start August, it's running amongst some of the driest starts in 132 years, especially across southern Missouri, western Tennessee, portions of Arkansas, and out here the western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, South Dakota area, running at about the fifth driest start to August on record since 1893. So we need some rain. Luckily, we're going to get some. Look at this, Northern Illinois, fourth there. We're going to get some. We're going to get some rain. It's definitely been a dry start. Luckily, it's been cooler, although some folks, especially in the northern third of the belt, the Dakotas, not liking the cool weather due to the late planted crop, need the heat units, the heat units there to keep the crop growing. Luckily, that's going to come too. But overall, it's been a seasonal, normal to cooler than normal August for the majority of the primary U.S. growing regions, obviously warmer surrounding that. Again, in terms of ranks, again, when you look at 132 being the coolest and number one being the hottest to start August, you can see where the heat's been focused out east and certainly out west. But the area here where the yellows are painted in, top third, really coolest start. Anything in the 120s is, close to top 10 coolest starts for the month of August. So it certainly has not been warm by any means here so far for the month. We look at summer to date, the precipitation ranks to date. Number one means it's the wettest ever since 1893. All right, this is June 1st to now, to August 13th. You can see where the really, really active corridor of precipitation has been for the summer here, at least in terms of the growing regions and up across the north and east as well. But southern Minnesota, it's the wettest it's ever been for you. South central Wisconsin, it's the third wettest summer in 132 years. In southern Michigan, it's the fourth wettest summer in 132 years. Now, quite the contrary here and across southern Ohio, portions of West Virginia and eastern Kentucky, among some of the driest, top 10 driest summers on record. It's kind of been a quiet drought over there for folks in southern Ohio. It has not been good. It has not been friendly for rainfall there. Temperatures to date, it's just there's no takeaway here other than it's been really warm in the east and really warm out west. In terms of the primary growing regions, it's just been favored a little bit on the cooler side, and there's really not been any issues. And that's really the reason that we're looking at weather that's favoring record crops. Just a really, really healthy crop overall. Outside of storm and hail damage, which we've seen, we know about, and it'll matter. No way to know how much it'll matter right now, but it's right now the weather. The big La Nina and the big really change never showed up. It just never gotten here. And now we're already talking about another cold front in the month of August. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. But all signs point to a big crop, at least based on weather. Rainfall the next 7 days. Again, a lot of folks that need the rain that haven't gotten it across the Dakotas, coming in across Iowa, Missouri there, and through Indiana and up back again across Wisconsin and Minnesota. And then that front swings through and brings that rain up and across the interior north and east. The next 7 days, plenty of rain to be had here across the I-states. And again, it's needed. It's welcomed. After the rain moves out, the temperatures will cool down. I'll show you that here in just a second. I mean, this is just over the next 7 days. These are just normal temperatures. The white just means it's normal mid-August temps. It's 82, 62, right? 81, 61 for highs and lows. The diurnal spread there from day to night is 20 degrees in the summer, right? So that's just what that is. So nothing really to take home there. Next week, the rainfall, it decreases in activity again, but the tropics, again, kind of steal the show. There's activity to continue to be monitored here. A lot of the pattern drivers favor eastern U.S. trough to be a theme late August into September, which means that if we're looking at, tropical activity, the area to watch in late August and September is probably going to be through here because fronts will continue to pick them up and shove them east, perhaps. Regardless, week 2, it's back to a drier forecast next week. But it's a cooler one because a front comes through. It could be a substantial cold front yet again. Look at the West Pacific with a recurve out there causing an interaction in the jet stream in the northern Pacific Ocean. Will bring a big cold front to the area next week and bring cooler temperatures with it yet again. It's going to feel like late September, early October next week again, especially across the eastern grain belt, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. Warmer in the Central Plains and the southern Canadian prairies. All right. The 4 key pattern drivers really that we're kind of keeping an eye on right now as we get deeper beyond week 2 for September, October. The AAM, which is the global wind pattern, ENSO, which is La Nina, PDO, which is the Pacific Ocean, and the AAO, which is the Antarctic oscillation. It's the stratosphere, the vortex in the southern hemisphere, and what that's doing to the pattern. Big correlation to September temperatures for a negative AAO, which has been strongly negative. It's a big correlation to cooler temps east for September. The negative PDO is minus 2.97. It's very strong. It's a big correlation for a trough in the east in September as well. So the idea is if southeastern U.S., a trough is in control possibly for September, cooler temperatures, and active with rainfall chances. Warmer and drier in the western half might be the idea here as we go in further into that time frame. Now, this is a look here at September. When we look at all of these analogs, this is pretty much what I just said. It's just a visual of that. Here's temperature pattern where the trough is. There can be cold fronts, shots of cooler air. The warmth centered back out across the central U.S. down through Texas. All right, so warmer here, cooler here as well. This has the makings of what I would call an omega block. The omega letter in the Greek alphabet looks like this. You can see it in the precipitation pattern as well. It's a trough ridge, trough type pattern. You can see it in the Pacific Ocean right now. It's very evident. And that's probably what drives September for the most part. Tropical activity, precipitation east, drier back out in here, can be wet here because troughs run into the ridge or come up on the Pacific and offer rainfall there. So that's kind of the idea for September right now. When you look at our official forecast, there's our updated forecast for today. Brett just put this out. And again, the idea is just favoring below normal temperatures for the eastern half, especially soybeans, big soybean area here, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, southern Michigan, and along the East Coast, much warmer here across Texas and the northern plains, southern Canadian prairies. All right. Precipitation. It's here's what's going to happen. I mean, we're really going to be it's really going to be determined on the tropical pattern. September's never a big month for rain. Okay, you get above normal rainfalls from tropical weather or bigger pattern drivers. I think the best chance for at or above normal rain comes in the eastern part of the country and the western part of the country. And I think the best chance for below normal rainfall comes in through here. When you're doing what we call kind of transitional months, September is a very difficult month, really any time to forecast a season, a monthly outlook for, especially with the ENSO evolution that we're dealing with. Regardless, there's just not really any big issues per se right now in the weather department, which would indicate everything really hinting at above trend corn yields. The latest on the yield analogs are plus 2.3 above trend, which, I mean, it's basically 183 on the yield right now, based on the analogs from a weather standpoint. There's just, you only have two in here that really were problematic, 2011 and 2013. And we both know that right now that's not what these years are. These more factored in August, September, perhaps, in the autumn months, but where we're coming from is not 2011, and it's not 13 either. So, regardless, most of the data right now indicating above trend yields for corn and for soybeans. There's really nothing that says otherwise. I mean, it's just where it's at. So, almost 1 point above trend on soybeans. If anything, the beans could use more rain. We're going to get it. And it stays cool. There's just really nothing. There's really nothing to be concerned with right now. So that's kind of the latest on the yield thought process. Let's look at the seasonal ideas. And what I want to talk to you about here real quick is the thought process behind the seasonal ideas. What we did is we took every year on a weekly ENSO evolution chart, and we plotted the idea of a neutral to weak La Nina progress into December. And we come up with a bunch of years, and we do that following this dark black line. This is 2024. All right, we try to look at years that are headed into similar behavior. Now, some of these years came out of strong La Ninas, some came out of strong El Ninos. The idea is, where do we think ENSO goes based on current behavior? And we would analog it that way. And it gives us these years to go off of. And what's interesting about pretty much all of these years is a cold start to winter. All right, they certainly offer up a colder start to winter for sure. Looks like I have that slide duplicated there for some reason. But what do these tell us? What do these tell us for harvest? Well, they tell us that we can expect slightly warmer conditions across much of the grain belt in the central U.S. and up and across the north and east, with a trough here. This tells me I think there can be big cold fronts, but it can average out warmer. Okay, when you look at it in a 90-day period, the map may end up saying, well, fall was a little bit warmer than average, but we had some strong cold fronts. I firmly believe that to be the case. I think early frost risks are on the table this year. I do. We're seeing strong cold fronts. We've seen them all summer. The Southern Oscillation Index and the North Pacific pattern indicates to me that big fronts can come through. I think we need to keep that in the back of our heads right now. It certainly is a risk. All right, nothing to go against that. The precipitation pattern for harvest favors a wetter eastern belt, a drier western belt for the overall harvest outcome, and then down across the deep south, drier. All it takes is one tropical storm or hurricane to mess all of that up, all of it. It just only takes one storm to take this map and completely make it soaked in the east and much drier in the west. That's just how it works. Okay, and with an active season, that can't be ruled out. Okay, winter. What do these evolution analogs say about winter? We get a lot of questions about this, and right now, the thought process is a cold start for all, and possibly as we get deeper into the winter, it gets a little bit more mild. That line of kind of normal, you can draw really kind of right through here. This would be that, let's call it that 0 degree line, where your normal, 30-year normal for winter. Warmer here, half a degree to a degree warmer. Again, this does not mean a blowtorch winter signal. This is not a mega warm winter signal right now. It's most of the cold would be loaded up across the northern tier and dump in waves, start from the west and bleed east. These types of winters typically favor very heavy snowfall patterns in places that not typical, more so along the Central Plains, the Ohio Valley, up into the interior Northeast. These winters do not favor coastal storms and deep south snows. All right, they kind of X-nay that out. These are more clippers and bigger phased systems further back to the west as you tap into the cold air supply. Super early analysis. It's August 14th, but nonetheless, folks are asking. I would say the odds are higher this year that winter's a little bit colder than it has been, and there's a little bit more snow in places that haven't seen a lot of snow in winters past over the last 10 years. So we'll see. It's just an early analysis there. So that's all I have for today. Again, share it with a friend. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't, and we'll be back here this time next week. Have a great weekend.